We have some breaking news out of the NFL right here on CBS Sports HQ. Kyle Shanahan telling the media that Brock Purdy is out against the Packers because of a shoulder injury. Now, Brock Purdy had an MRI on that shoulder on Monday. He was, of course, limited in practice this week, but he is going to be out, not playing against the Packers. Shanahan also adding that Purdy's status is even up in the air for next week. So that means it is Brandon Allen who is going to get the start in his place, as the Niners currently sit at 500 on the season, on the outside looking in as it pertains to the playoffs. But what does this mean for your fantasy team? Let's bring in our fantasy expert, Heath Cummings. We're going to go down the whole Week 12 injury report, but of course, starting with that big news, Kyle Shanahan just saying Brock Purdy is out because of that shoulder injury. So Heath, walk us through what this means, not only if Brock Purdy is your QB1, but also for the rest of the receivers there, including George Kittle, who we thought might be on the injury report, but Shanahan not mentioning that at all.
So there are plenty of options in CBS leagues on the waiver wire. My favorite would be Drake May. He's rostered in 47% of CBS leagues. Has a decent matchup against Miami this week. Has been in that 22-point fantasy range on a semi-regular basis this year. And if you are really desperate and you can't get him, then maybe you go get someone like a Cooper Rush, like a Tommy DeVito, or even like a Brandon Allen. But hopefully you can find Drake May. As for the pass catchers, it's a clear and obvious negative. But we've got 6 teams on a bye, and we've got all kinds of injuries all over the NFL. So it's maybe not quite as big of impact in terms of rankings as you might guess. Christian McCaffrey, still a must-start running back. George Kittle, still a must-start tight end. The one guy that you might have with Kittle is Cade Otton, and I did move Kittle just behind Cade Otton. So if you have Kittle and Otton, start Otton, but otherwise Kittle's a must-start tight end. The wide receivers are really where you kind of see this impact a little bit more. Juwan Jennings has been fantastic the last 2 weeks without Brandon Ayuk, has looked like a must-start wide receiver. He was a borderline top 12 guy in our rankings at the beginning of the week because we didn't think Kittle was playing and we did think Purdy was playing. Now that's been flipped on its head. I don't have Jennings or Deebo Samuel ranked as a top 24 wide receiver. I think if you're in a 3 wide receiver league, you are still starting both. If you're in a 2 wide receiver league, I am hoping that I can do better. I would not be surprised if we see the overall pass rate of this team change, and then I think you'll see the pass efficiency take a big hit. Purdy's been one of the most efficient passers in the NFL since he joined the 49ers. But that's one final point that I'll make is Brandon Allen might not be terrible. We've seen this offense kind of carry some pretty mediocre quarterbacks in the past. We saw what Jimmy Garoppolo looked like once he left San Francisco. Nick Mullins looked okay in this offense once upon a time. I think Brandon Allen will be okay, just not anywhere close to as good as Brock Purdy has been.
Yeah, man, it's just been a tough year in terms of injuries for the Niners. It feels like they just cannot get away from that injury bug. Heath, you mentioned it. There's a lot of buys, a lot of injuries. So we're going to move along to the running backs. DeAndre Swift, he is questionable. He is someone I have on my roster, and I'm struggling, Heath, because I have Charbonnet and then Breece Hall, who is on a bye. And I feel like, do I just rock with DeAndre Swift? What do we do because he's dealing with that groin injury?
I think a lot of people are in a similar situation. I don't feel good about DeAndre Swift. I don't want to start DeAndre Swift. I'm certainly starting him over Zach Charbonnet and a guy that's on a bye. Listen, this was a thing that popped up, we think, during the game last week. We saw Roschon Johnson really cut into DeAndre Swift's workload. We've seen Roschon Johnson and Khalil Herbert before he was dealt kind of cut into his inside the 5 work, especially. Johnson has just as many carries inside the 5 as Swift does. So I don't know that he scores a touchdown. I don't know that he plays the number of snaps that he normally does. And he's facing a Vikings defense that's been very good against running backs for most of the year. So I don't like it. That being said, there's just not that many good starting running backs available. If you really wanted to get crazy in a full PPR league, and I think Jamie Eisenberg may even have it ranked this way or will shortly, you could start Amir Abdullah over DeAndre Swift, as we expect him to lead that Raiders backfield. That's the only guy who might have been kind of sitting out there that you could go get to put over DeAndre Swift.
Yeah, beggars can't be choosers when it comes to any of the running backs that are out there right now. I want to talk about Isaiah Pacheco because he is out, and I feel like typically the cheat code in fantasy is like whoever the Panthers are going up against, all of their offense is expected to kind of go off. So what do you do here? Is it more Kareem Hunt touches, or how do you handle this if you have Pacheco?
Absolutely. One more week at least of Kareem Hunt as a must-start fantasy running back. I'd expect at least 20 touches in this game. I would expect maybe 20 fantasy points in this game. He's a top 12 running back for me. We think Mahomes is going to be good too. We think Kelsey's going to be good. We really just like all of the Chiefs against the Panthers. And I think the other thing this does, because they're on a short week after this, and so when we go into week 13, I'm probably still going to rank Kareem Hunt as pretty close to a starting running back. Isaiah Pacheco, I would expect a pretty long ramp up period just because he's coming off of a broken leg. We've seen some players in the past really struggle to get back from that. And also, this Chiefs team is planning on playing football for the next 3 months. They don't need to give Isaiah Pacheco 20 touches as soon as he gets back. So I think we'll still start Kareem Hunt this week and probably next week, and then it may turn into a big mess.
All right, we have a handful of receivers to talk about, starting with Devontae Smith, who is out because of a hamstring injury. Also an injury that I'm dealing with in one of my leagues, Heath. I actually picked up Christian Watson. He was on waivers, which I was like, I feel like that feels okay.
Who would have guessed that Christian Watson would be the receiver with okay hamstrings? I guess that the offseason work actually worked for him. Yeah, that's a good guy to go add. Another guy that's widely available, Kayshon Boutte, has been around 8 fantasy points for the Patriots. Like you said, beggars can't be choosers. But this is really a big boost for Dallas Goedert. Listen, A.J. Brown's always a top 12 must-start wide receiver. What we've seen is anytime Goedert's out, Devontae Smith is a must-start wide receiver. Anytime Smith's out, Dallas Goedert's a must-start tight end. So we feel better about starting Dallas Goedert. I've moved him into my top 10. Feel a little bit worse about Jalen Hurts, but not enough to where it matters. He's still an obvious start at quarterback.
All right, so we have CeeDee Lamb and Mike Evans. CeeDee Lamb coming off of the injury report there. Of course, it is not Dak. It's still Cooper Rush. We know that. And then Mike Evans as well. How do you deal with these two guys as they're coming off of the injury reports and no longer, I guess Mike Evans is technically questionable, but it feels like trending in the right direction. How do you handle CeeDee and Mike Evans? We've
talked about starting Amir Abdullah, Kayshon Boutte, and Tommy DeVito during the last 5 minutes. If CeeDee Lamb and Mike Evans are playing football, CeeDee Lamb and Mike Evans are in my fantasy football lineup. These are both top 12 guys for me this week. Lamb basically has been 16 fantasy points per game whenever he's played with Cooper Rush, except for that one time the sun got in his eyes. I expect he's going to be around 16 fantasy points per game in this game. I'm starting CeeDee Lamb as a top 10 wide receiver. Mike Evans, one of my favorite storylines to watch. We've seen some truly epic performances from Evans late in the season because of how much he cares about that 1,000-yard mark and his streak of always getting at least 1,000 yards. Well, now he's got 7 games left. He needs to average 95 receiving yards per game in those 7 games. There's no Chris Godwin. Baker Mayfield's playing out of his mind. Mike Evans might just be the best wide receiver in fantasy for the rest of the season.
All right, and finally, let's get to tight ends. Jake Ferguson there. I know we talked about CD, but Jake Ferguson there in Dallas, he is out because of a concussion. What do you do if you have Jake Ferguson? And in one league, I do have a backup tight end, but it's only in one. It's tough to have it in every league.
Yes, this is the greatest streaming week that I can ever remember for tight ends. Maybe it's just that the position is this bad now, but there were, at the beginning of the week, 3 streaming options ranked inside of my top 12. I love Jonnu Smith. Will Dissly's in a great spot. And then Ferguson's replacement, Luke Schoonmaker. Listen, this tradition in Dallas goes all the way back to when Jason Witten came out of retirement. It doesn't matter who you put in the tight end position for the Dallas Cowboys. They're going to see something like a 15 to 20% target share. They're going to finish as a top 12 tight end. Witten did it. Dalton Schultz did it. Blake Jarwin did it for a month. Jake Ferguson's been doing it. These are not, like, except for Witten, elite Hall of Fame level tight ends, just what this Dallas offense does. Schoonmaker on Monday Night Football, 18% target share after Ferguson went down. I think he's going to be a top 12 tight end this week.
Yeah, I just picked up Dissly on waivers, I think maybe this week, so I'm glad to see him in your top 10 tight end rankings. Heath, we certainly appreciate it going through the injury update. Of course, the big news coming out of that, Brock Purdy is out, and we're going through what that means for your fantasy team. If you want to hear more from Heath, Jamie Eisenberg, Dave Richard, and the guys, make sure you check out Fantasy Football Today. They got you covered with all of your fantasy football questions. You can download, follow, listen wherever you get your favorite podcasts.